Hello, you're listening to Sports Hour with me, Katie Smith, live from the BBC Sport headquarters. Great to have you with us, and as ever, we have so much to get stuck in. Our sporting witness became the first woman to row across the Atlantic Ocean single-handed. American Tori Murden McClure takes us back to a challenge that nearly cost her everything. Time now for Sporting Witness, where we're going to go back to December 1999 and the American Tori Murden McClure, who became the first woman to row across the Atlantic Ocean single-handed. Tori's been speaking to Sports Hour's Claire Bowes.
Well, I could be imagining it, but I'm pretty sure there's land right there.
On December the 3rd, 1999, Tori reached the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe. It had taken her 81 days to cross the Atlantic from France on a boat she'd built herself called the American Pearl. It was an incredible achievement, but for Tori, it wasn't her first taste of epic adventure. A decade earlier, she'd become the first woman to ski 1,100 kilometres across Antarctica to the South Pole. She says from a young age, nature had always been her refuge.
I come from sort of the classic dysfunctional family. My parents weren't that well balanced, and so being at home wasn't always safe. But being in the woods, I knew the woods, I felt safe in the woods. And so I developed this sense of outside good, inside bad.
6 foot and rangy, as an adult at college, Tori became an all-round athlete. As well as skiing, she took up rowing and was a natural, especially over long distances.
I tried out for the Olympic team in 1992. I didn't make it because I was too slow, a fairly basic issue. But then I heard about a rowing race across the Atlantic Ocean, and I thought, well, I may not be super fast, but I can go forever.
What she didn't know then was just how much her endurance would be tested. Her first attempt to cross the Atlantic in 1998 ended in disaster.
This is the rowing vessel, American Pearl, American Pearl. My long-range communication system is down, and I'm looking for someone who can relay a message. I see a ship on my horizon. Can you hear me? Over.
Just over a week after setting off, she was battered by a storm which broke her communications kit.
Still not time. They don't listen to VHF out here. Why would they?
Tori would not be able to call anyone for the whole of the 4,700-kilometre journey.
I think it's my 76th day at sea, somewhere around there, 75, 76, could be 77 for all I know. And I had really hoped to be nearing France by now, and I am 1,200 miles away, going in the wrong direction.
But soon she began to adjust to the solitude. It was just her 7-metre-long lightweight boat, and the ocean.
The wall of the cabin was 3/8 of an inch thick, very thin. And it was like being on the inside of a cello. So when the whales sang or the dolphins squeaked or popped or made noises, it would reverberate inside the cabin. And every once in a while the whales would sing me to sleep at night, which was great fun. And I smelled this really strange smell, and I thought, I need a bath. And the next thing I know, there's this whale right beside me. And I now know what whale breath smells like.
Tori rowed from sunup to sundown, barely stopping to eat, sometimes covering up to 70 kilometres, and always vulnerable to the elements.
It was a wave. On the North Atlantic, it was always cold and wet. I was craving dry. On the Mid-Atlantic, it was always hot. At high noon on deck, there couldn't be a canopy because you can turn a canopy into a sail, and that would be cheating. So you're just exposed to the sun, well over 100 degrees on deck.
With her communications system down, she had no way of getting any weather reports. Instead, she began to read the clouds, the wind, and the ocean.
As Hurricane Danielle was approaching, I wrote in my journal, "The weather is weird, and the ocean is wrong." Last night, about dinner time, had a rather calm eye of a storm.
85 days into her journey, Tori Murden McClure was hit by the biggest storm so far. The American Pearl was designed to right itself after capsizing. But as the boat flipped over again and again, Tori struggled to get used to it, and panic did start to set in.
And the boat capsized 5 or 6 times in the morning, and I thought, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to get out of my cabin. I'm going to crawl across the deck. I'm going to get the distress beacon, and I'm going to set it off. As I went out on deck, waves were washing over the boat, and I realized I couldn't ask another human being to come out into that storm to get me. So I tied the distress beacon to my life vest, went back into the cabin. There were a number of end-over-end pitch poles. One capsize dislocated my shoulder. The next capsize put it back into place. I've lost track of the number of capsizes. They seem to capsize about every 15 minutes. I think I may have broken my left arm. Oh God, how did I get myself into this?
Tori was in huge amounts of pain. The storm seemed unrelenting, and she briefly considered letting herself get washed away.
There was a sort of this long stretch of time that I sat on deck. I played sort of, roulette with a safety tether, clipping and unclipping, knowing that sooner or later a wave was going to hit and wash me overboard. And when indeed the wave did hit, I held the carabiner open, and the safety cable caught the hook of the carabiner and pulled it out of my hand and sort of kept me with the boat. But the boat went way down under the surface of the water. And I remember my brain screaming for oxygen, saying, pay attention, this is what it feels like to die. My head came out of the water, and the first words out of my mouth were coward.
Concussed and injured, she was eventually rescued by a cargo ship.
Sorry. Good to see you. Wonderful to see you.
After the failure of her first attempt, Tori spent the following year working for the legendary boxer Muhammad Ali and began to recover her confidence. With his encouragement, she decided to try again.
When he knew I was ready, he said, you don't want to go through life as the woman who almost rowed across the ocean. And, by that time I sort of knew I was going to go back, but having Muhammad Ali as my excuse for going back was pretty good.
This time, the voyage went well, and it seemed like she might even break the record for the fastest solo crossing by man or woman.
Yeah, I was feeling a little proud, because it would have been nice as the first woman to have set a new record.
Sure enough, another storm, Hurricane Lenny, ensured the winds turned against her. But Tori still arrived in one piece in Guadeloupe on December the 3rd, 1999. Now, more than 20 years later, Tori Murden McClure is president of Spalding University in the US.
I often say to young people, we all have oceans to cross. The beauty is we don't have to do them by ourselves. We can do it with other people, and surround yourselves with people who lift you up, surround yourselves with people who make you better.
Tori Murden McClure there talking to Claire Bowes.